Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the free small business workshop. We're going to get started. I'd like to welcome new people to the call. We've had some issues with our email, so I apologize for the reminders not getting where they need to be. A few housekeeping items. I do record these sessions. I will upload them and I will send them out to you. You are all on mute and I cannot hear you. Hopefully you can hear me. If you cannot hear me, there is a chat box over in the corner where the three dots are, and you can just alert me to not being able to hear the sound, but I will send this out to everybody and let you know. For those of you that are new, that don't know who I am, my name is Maria Barakat. I'm a social media consultant and trainer. Strategy is everything that I do. Digital marketing strategy. It's the name of the game. And after some 10 years of it being around, which we're going to talk about a little bit today, we've really learned a few things, and it's not as hard and complicated as it needs to be. So I thank you all for being here today. Today's topic is really important. It's the gap. It's the digital gap. This is how I started to do what I do, because I realized that the way we used to do marketing, which I've done since I got out of college, has changed so dramatically from what we do today. And there's a lot of things that are similar, but there's also a lot of things that aren't similar. And I just want to give you a foundation today, because if you understand this foundation, then everything else can happen for you. And what I've found over the years is that people that don't understand the difference really have a hard time grasping the importance of it. So that's why I really wanted to address this today as we come to a very busy time of the year. So we're going to talk about that gap, what it is. We're going to review what's changed, and I'm going to give you an analogy that I think that will help you to do it. And then we're going to talk about Google, because Google really controls everything today, and they're the ones that really started this whole process of digital marketing. And so understanding how they fit into this big picture will make things easier for you. So let's get started. The digital world is huge and it's all encompassing. It's what I would call an immersive technology, meaning we are completely immersed in it, whether we think we are or not. Right? So listening and engaging within it is what's going to make our businesses grow. That's just the simple thing. So that's why getting this foundation is critically important. So where are we now? I like to view where most people are is the boots on the ground. So we're kind of down looking up. We're looking at all the big players and we're looking at how they're succeeding. You're looking at YouTubers who go from nothing to millions and then fall. So it's a little bit confusing because we're so far down. I want to go up 30,000 feet. So when you get a perspective of what's out there, you can begin to connect the dots. And this is a great image. It's one of my favorites. It's from the FAA. And this is what America looks like at 30,000 feet. And those are airplanes flying above us. So we're down on the ground and we're not aware of all of these things that are happening. But I do find that when you get up and you look at why things are the way they are, that it's easier to put them into play. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Very important. We don't have a choice on whether we do digital media. The question is, how well do we do it, right? And I think all of us, even myself, I live and breathe digital media. There are always things that I have to learn to do better. And doing it better, doing it well, means that you understand how it works. Most people don't want to do this. But if you understand how it works, then all of the people that work with you and for you can help you to do it. And then you really have an effective strategy. And I think that's what's really critically important. Because digital media, social media works best when real people are there. Real people with real intentions, real needs, quality content behind every profile, every tweet, every post, and every tag. It cannot be computer generated. Although it is a technological process, it really needs to have humans behind it or it doesn't work. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people is they begin to automate stuff. And there's some things you can easily automate, but the content and the strategy behind it has to come from you, the business owner, just the way that you did it 20 years ago or 10 years ago, whenever you started. So this is a really critically important part of understanding what has changed. I like to start with what motivates people. So what motivates you and me to be a part of social media? You're all on this call. This is a social media webinar. It's a technological process. But what makes us engage in that process of social media? Well, there's 4 things. The first thing, and it's kind of a heavy word, anticipated reciprocity. This is really just a fancy way of saying that we're motivated to participate in anything digital, all this information and data, because we have an expectation that we're going to get and receive useful information, right? We used to go to the library because we knew that the answers were there. And if we didn't know how to find it, we went to the librarian, and that librarian most definitely helped us to get what we need. Today is no different. We expect that if we get on a webinar or we read a post or a blog or an article, that we're gonna get something in return, right? We're also motivated because we believe that we're going to be recognized for these contributions. So every little thumbs up that we get makes us feel better. It confirms what we feel subconsciously about digital media and the data that's out there. Also, we're motivated by the contributions. We want to give you valuable information. We want to do that because we know that it has an effect. If we can affect one person or our community or our family or our friends, then we know that it's worthwhile to navigate through all this and to log in and do the things that we do. And finally, engagement. This is really the cherry on top of the cake when it comes to all this digital data that's out there. We are motivated by contributions that you make to me, that I make to you. I want to see people change. I want to see people learn. This is a very important thing. And the reason I'm giving you this text-heavy information is because if you have people that work for you, and you want them to help you and you don't understand why they're not doing it, it's one of these reasons. They feel that either what you're offering to your consumers and your customers is not worthy of their time, or you're not giving them the opportunity to do it. So it's very important to understand this, because without participation, customers, employees, you, the community, you cannot possibly have a successful marketing campaign. It just will not work to the level that it must be. You don't want to strap yourself into what we call tactical enthusiasm. Tactical enthusiasm is when we just give people so many rules or not enough rules that we feel that we can't do it, that we can't help you and participate with you. So for those of you that have been on these trainings before, this is a perfect example of what Yelp does. So Yelp is a place where our customers go in and talk about us, but you have to invite them to do that. Don't feel that you can't. And the reason that they're giving you those reviews is they want you to know. They feel that their contribution to you is going to make your business better because they want you to be better. They want our community to be better. You don't want to strap people down with a lot of rules and regulations about posting, but you have to give them something. You have to give them some guidelines to help them. And that's really what today's training is about. It's about embracing the objectives of participation in the digital market and understanding how it is. I'm a huge fan of the original first movie of Star Wars. And I love what Yoda said, right? Do or do not. Because in digital media, there's no trying. You have to master this. And today's training is really all about you mastering that foundational understanding so that you'll know how to navigate it and what to do and what not to do. Really? So it's important. So what has changed? Well, before the internet, I would say really before 2007, because we did have the internet before, we were told by businesses what was going on. It was in the papers, it was on the television, it was on billboards. We looked and it said, hey, there's a sale coming on, come here. So what we did was we went there. We actually read those things that came on in Sunday's paper, and we said, I'm going to go there and I'm going to purchase this thing. And then what did we do? So that's one person buying something. And the rule of marketing used to be that one person told three people, right? Hey, I got this great deal. It was fantastic. Here's the shop. So one person tells three people, and then those people tell three people, right? So it was math. 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. And we loved having word of mouth referrals. So if somebody says to me today, I don't need digital marketing because I get word of mouth referrals, I question that because things have changed today. We as consumers control a lot of what businesses do or don't do. We don't tell you what products to buy, but we are giving you our opinions and directing other people to you through a marketing source. So it's sort of changed, right? We're not looking in the newspapers. We're finding you. We're becoming aware of you mainly through our phones because that's how people mainly do things today. And we discover stuff, right? So no, here I am again. I found this great product. I love it. I go to Facebook and I post it. So on average, most people on Facebook have 300 friends, right? 300 people that can possibly see my post. So I'm posting this and I'm saying, hey, I love it. It was fantastic. And those 3 people are viewing it, right? So of those 300 people, it becomes a mathematical, statistical process. Probably 12 of those people are going to share it, and they're going to share it to their 300 people. Of those 300 people, you now have 144 new people sharing that to their family and friends, right? Now you have 1,700 plus people who are sharing this information to their family and friends. It's multiplication. And this is just one platform. So when you add in other platforms, things that are new, things that are important, Twitter, Snapchat, all of the things that are out there, you now have a process where 500,000 people could possibly see one message by you. And this is a very different process than an ad in the local paper. So where the local paper would say, hey, 500,000 people are getting this newspaper, you know that for every person who shares your content, shares your information and review, that for sure it's going to be this number of people. And now you can track that and you can understand it and you can see where it is. And then you can reward the people that really support you and share you. Knowing who these people are is really important. Getting their emails, writing them, because they're now your fans, right? So it's really important. And it's dramatically different today because the world we live in today, everything we touch spreads faster and farther. And that promise of the internet where we were going to get a zillion customers becomes a problem because in addition to us going faster and farther, so are everyone else, right? And some people are doing it better than others. And that's a problem because marketing, which is what I do and what I talk about, is something that we all do. So every person that walks into your business, that interacts with your business, is now part of your marketing department. And every person, from the person who packs it, brings it to the post office, the people who make it, the people who clean your facility, your teachers, your employees, all of these people are part of your marketing and they don't even realize it. So hopefully you can see through this process today how important it is that even they understand how marketing works in our everyday life. It's really critical because marketing is just simply a process that we use for creating and communicating and exchanging the stuff that we want, right? I want stuff. So that's a marketing process. I have to go find that ad. I have to go find that information. And it's how I get everything. It's how I find a bank or a dentist. It's how I volunteer. It's how I find community centers, and even today, how we interact with our neighbors in many cases. So that process of marketing is really not something that you need a special degree to understand, because we're all doing it. And that's really the core difference of what has changed. So remember, we're at 30,000 feet and we're looking down. As you're in the thick of it, you don't realize this. But when you're looking down at the whole process, this is really the core of what it is. So everyone that works for you, everyone that buys from you, is all part of this process. So I'm a visual person. So I want to kind of give you a visual sense of how things have changed. So this is before the internet, right? Before digital. How did small businesses survive? I had a small business back in the day, and we did mailers. We advertised in the yellow pages. We put things in the newspaper. We even called people, right? I never did a billboard, but that it was a main way that people did advertising. And it was simple, right? It was all based on money. So the more money you had, the bigger ad you had. The more money you had, the more mails you said, the lists you bought, the newspapers you advertised. Maybe you had a sales department that was calling people, all of these kinds of things. It was very simple, and it operated this way all the time. Then we threw in Google. So Google started really in the late 90s. And this is one of their first pages. It's not as beautiful as it is today. But I used to advertise on Google way back in the day. And it was very simple and it was easy, and it was just one more thing that we did. But then all of a sudden everything changed, right? The internet grew, and so did the marketing tools. And this is where we started to lose all the small businesses. So from 92 to 2010, we began to get tools, right? Facebook came online, Monster Jobs, all these kind of sales programs were here and there, and how to connect with people, right? And it felt manageable. It felt like you could learn it, you could train your people, and you could do it. But then things exploded. So this is a chart of all the marketing technology tools from 2012, right? Doesn't involve every industry, but it's really overwhelming when you look at it. So you probably had marketing people that were discussing, do we want to use YouTube? Do we want to have eye contact? Do we want to have these things, right? Then 2015. So it began to grow, right? This is really doubling. This is last year. In 2017, these icons are so small. It exploded. The amount of tools that is available for everyone. Many of these things are free. Many of them give you something at a very low cost. Things like MailChimp, where you have a free email server. But all of these things are here to help you. The problem is, if you don't understand the core of what you need, then you really don't know which one of these things to use, right? That's what makes it overwhelming. And I think that's why a lot of small businesses say, I'm just going to do what I've been doing. But I don't think that you can. I think that you need to understand that technology is outpacing everything, but it has kind of leveled off a little bit. What hasn't leveled off is the choices. I use the grocery store as my worst case scenario. I cannot stand to go to the cereal aisle, or really any aisle, because there's just so many things to choose from. It makes us unhappy. It also makes your customers unhappy, because as you stand there and you're looking at all of the competition to our own businesses, you have to find what is going to make them reach out to get you. And that's branding. That's the one thing we are certain of as marketers today, that it's all about your branding and what sets you apart from your competitors. So a lot of people will tell me, I don't really have any competitors. You do. You compete with everyone. And it's normally not Amazon that you're competing with. You are competing with other small people just like you, who actually know what makes them different. The way that you do that is you understand your mission statement and you know that compass. So we started the year with this process. Who are you? What do you stand for? What are your values? If you cannot answer these questions, if your employees cannot answer these questions, then you're not distinguishing yourself among your competitors, because it's really not about the money. Today, in a digital economy, it's about the value our money offers us, right? So we're willing to quit a big job to work 2 small jobs to stay at home with our children, men and women. That's a different world than it was before. So you have to know your core branding in order to really grasp how you fit in to this changing world, right? This is the core of everything that you do. Now, technology is where the problems begin. And I'm not a geek at all. I do not understand coding, and you do not need to understand coding, but you do need to understand what makes all of that stuff behind the computer screen work, right? And I'm going to show you that. I'm going to use an everyday example to give you an understanding of what all that digital coding is. And the way we're going to do it, it's something we've all done, is we're going to apply for a job in the digital economy. And I work in this world, in the career world, and believe me, I am amazed at how many qualified people try to find a job. They say, well, I've been working here for 10, 15 years, and now they can't get a job. It's because there's a trick. That coding, that digital language that's behind the computer screen is something you need to understand. And it's the same process that you need to understand about your own business. So how does it work? So here we are. Back in the day, you got the newspaper and you circled stuff and you made a call or you sent something in, right? Today, we don't do that. Today, we go online and we say, wow, this is so much easier. I don't have to print things. I can just, go online and I can send off my resume and I can apply for 100 jobs, not just 5 jobs, right? And you can find jobs. Maybe you always wanted to move to, Boca Raton. You can apply for jobs for Boca Raton from St. Louis. It's great. The problem is technology. Behind all of these applications is a process called, it's an ATS system, right? It's an application tracking system, because this is a computer. It's not a human. It's not like when we answered the ads and we called a human and they heard our voice and they said, I really liked that Maria. She was, all upbeat and excited. I can't wait to meet her. And then we go in and we meet them and they get to visually see us. That's not the way computers work. Computers operate with a coding, that same coding that directs people to your business, right? It's a very different process. The applicant tracking system is looking for keywords. It says, this is what company A wants. This is the description that they gave me. This is what Joe sent. And they're matching those two things up. And they're trying to determine, do you fit what they want? But remember, it's a computer. So it's not a human being assessing you and looking at your value and saying, wow, you have a marketing degree and you have an anthropology degree. I think that you'd be great in the HR department. No, it doesn't work that way. The description is looking for something very specific. So it doesn't care that you have an anthropology degree or that you studied in France. It only wants to know the computer words that make sense behind the curtain, right? So if your resume does not include enough of the right keywords, then you're going to be removed. And that's what happens. So people will come to me and they'll say, I have sent 200 resumes. I haven't gotten one response. That's because nobody's seeing them. Because the words you're using in your resume and in your application don't match what the computer understands. And the same thing works for your digital marketing. So if you're posting things and running ads on Google or on Facebook and you're not using the keywords that are important to your customers, they're not even seeing you. So they can't share it and then have other people share it and then have other people share it, because you're not understanding the coding behind it, right? This is what an ATS form would look like. This is a very simplistic one. So the resume, according to the computer, says, well, 17 skills were matched to the job description. And this job description, according to the computer, has 76 skills. So customer experience. So customer experience may be on that resume, but it's not worded in the same way. So it says it's missing. I don't see that. We know that if you work on cross-functional teams, that you probably understand something about customer service, business development. But if you're not using those words, then it's going to knock you out. And this resume will not even be seen by an employer because they get hundreds and hundreds of them, and they only want to see people that are in a certain percentage of the skills. So this hurts you in getting a job, but it also is hurting the small business owner, because if you're not using the right words, if you're not posting the right things, if you're not sharing the right content, then it's not possible for your customers to find you. So I'm going to give you an example with Google. So Google, we go to Google and we say, hey, Google, this is what I want, right? They have an algorithm or coding behind it that answers those questions. And they've been perfecting it for quite some time. So they're very good at understanding how people ask for things that they want, how to solve those problems. And Google's job is to direct those millions and millions of people to the content that it finds out in the internet, right? So how do people ask determines what Google offers. And what you're offering on a regular basis will allow Google to share your information. So it's a matter of quality and quantity, right? Because the content is where those keywords lie. So if you're only posting occasionally, if you're not blogging, if you're not changing your website, if you're not out there providing people with answers to what you do, to what your business is all about, then Google can't possibly serve you up as an answer to a question, right? You have to know what people are searching for. Here's a really cool visual way to sort of imagine it. So equine therapy, I work with a nonprofit that this is what they do, right? So what are people asking? When did equine therapy start? What's equine therapy? What does equine therapy help? So these are all of the possible questions that might come up if somebody just typed in the word equine therapy. And it's Google's job to find the answers to those questions. So it's saying, when did equine therapy start? So maybe on your website you have a little bit of history on it. What is it? Do you have frequently asked questions that talks about that? And how does it help? Are you constantly putting out information to help Google send people that answer, so that when we get a search page result and we're looking at that list, we're going to want to go in and see what else is out there. So this is a very critically important part of understanding how your content works. Do you know the questions that your customers ask Google to find you? And they're not just putting your name in there, because that's just your existing customer base. That's a different kind of digital marketing. How are people becoming aware of you? And this is really, really important when you try to understand how to do it, because it's confusing. You have to know your keywords. You have to produce lots of new content. And that content has to solve very specific problems that's related to your mission, to your branding. I do customer content strategy, but the strategy that I do is very different than a large company like Marketo that works with huge companies with sales departments. I don't deal at that kind of level. I refine all the way down to businesses that maybe are caught in this gap, because that's my expertise and it's part of my mission. So this is a really important section in understanding the whole digital marketing. And for those of you that have been on the call, this is the way content is marked, right? These are all the things that you can do. You can create quizzes and posts and ebooks and all that kind of stuff. But the core of what we're doing is 4 things. We're trying to entertain people. We're trying to inspire them. We're trying to educate them and convince them. We want them to come to us. This is how they find us, right? And there's no better people to do this kind of stuff than the people that work with you and for you. And so when I say everyone is part of the marketing team, I mean everyone. And some of these things, the ratings and reviews, these are things that your customers actually contribute to your content. They're inspiring and convincing other people on your behalf. But you have to know how to ask for it, and you have to be on top of that process. So not all of this is related to every business, but there's enough in here that you can have fun and you can look at your employees and really, gauge where they are. Google calls these things touch points. So again, if you've been part of my buyer's journey, you know what it is. How do people become aware of you? Once they become aware of you, they're going to research you. They're going to evaluate you. They're going to compare you to businesses that are just like you. And then they're going to make this decision. So purchase is a decision. We are trying to decide, do we want to do business with this one or this one? Who has the better price? Who has the better value? It's all about that. It's all about value. And then once we decide, it doesn't end. We want to now experience you. We want that product to come in the mail. We want it to be in our email box. We want someone to follow up with us. We want a thank you letter. We want to be acknowledged. All of that stuff we talked about in the beginning. We still want to know that we're important to you, because if our experience is good, we will advocate for you. This is word of mouth. So when people come to me and they say, I don't need digital because I have people giving me word of mouth referrals, the question is, where are they coming from? Because there's no difference between reading a post or talking to your sister. If you ask me how I heard about you, I'm going to say, my sister told me, word of mouth. But I'm not elaborating and saying, oh, I saw her Facebook post on here. And that's a digital process, right? Because if we advocate and become a part of your business, then what happens is you bypass this. So you're not having to be out there so much and advertising and getting your name out, because then true word of mouth happens in this process. This is what I call the buyer's journey. And it's usually stretched out, linear, but it's really a circle process. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to overshadow this so that people make that decision based on what other people say. And this is really critically important to understanding this 30,000 view of what has changed. The process really hasn't changed. The tools have changed, right? The awareness before were people we trusted, our parents, our colleagues, but it's in here, right? And all of that makes this work. Because every person in your business needs to know what we just talked about in order to understand any of this. Maybe there's somebody who understands Twitter. Maybe Twitter isn't even what you need to grow your business. All of this stuff becomes very overwhelming when you don't really understand what's behind it. That process, that job application process, your keywords, it sort of gets rid of the clutter and makes you the obvious choice for things. So that's really what it is that I wanted to show you and give you a new perspective of how it works, right? So the reflection here is, how can I make digital marketing in my business a team process? So if it's just you, your team is your customers. It's your suppliers. It's your community. How are you going to make people aware of you and be a part of this digital process? That's how you grow your business. So it's not just sinking a bunch of money in Google or Facebook ads. It's also about making that process real people behind all of the stuff that's happening. Our questions of the week. I go through this every week, but I want you to look at it from a digital perspective. New emails. So emails to you is gold. You have to add new emails to your list because that's how you're communicating with people today, right? Old days, maybe you mailed stuff, but today you just do that. You need to know that every single week. You need to know what's moving on your floor and what's not moving on your floor. And maybe it's not moving because it's been sitting in the same spot and there's so much dust around it that it's not interesting to people. Same thing with your website. Does it look the same week after week after week? Go to some of the more popular companies and see that it moves around. And what do your employees know? What do your suppliers know? What about the customers who are helping to promote you? Those are your fans. Those are new fans. How many did you add every single week? And knowing what content resonates with people and which content doesn't resonate with people. We all do a dud every now and then. It doesn't, you need to know what that is. And you need to know who's engaged. Who are the people that are giving you the thumbs up, that are sharing you? These are very important people. They're just as important as the people that walk in and buy something. The people who are promoting you are working for you for free. So they're very important. And that's how you improve your customer service, by reaching out and touching people and getting their feedback. So next week, I'm going to jump right into Christmas marketing, even though that's already kind of started for everyone. But I want to show you really in the digital process what sort of changed. And this is applicable to every business. So I work with schools. Christmas marketing, they're not selling anything. But Christmas is a great time to thank customers, to include them in your business, to let them know who you are and what you stand for, so that they can really share who you are with others. So Christmas marketing is not just about selling products. It's also about being in your community and sharing the goodwill and the feeling that we all have, no matter what we celebrate or don't. It's all a process that happens. So that's what we're going to talk about next week on November 15th. I want to thank everyone for being here. I felt lost not being here last week. It's good to be back, and I will be changing my email. I will upload this training for you. Please share it with your team and have this conversation with them, because it's important that they understand. And if you need help in understanding what your superpowers are and what your keywords are, that's what I'm here for. You can just email me at Maria@DesignBearMarketing, and I'm happy to help you. I'm not going to charge you to have a phone call with me. So I want to thank everyone for being here. I really appreciate all of you being here every single week, and I look forward to next week. Have a